Hello ladies and gentlemen, SeKo Starcraft here, bringing you one of his replays, and I'm putting this one up specifically to talk a little bit about some of the balance discussions that have been happening lately. I've seen a couple different videos go up, so I figured I'd take an opportunity to voice my opinions on it. There's a link down below into the BattleNet discussion forum where this is actually happening right now, and it's only more interesting to me specifically, and we're playing a Terran versus Zerg right now in the background because I think that's where it has most of the impact, even though there's some really great Protoss buffs in there as well. It's really trying to change the landscape of the current metagame to provide a little bit more option in there. And we'll see that, you know, the way that I play, I actually am very looking forward to some of these changes, not because I think they're necessary, but they're obviously going to help me out a lot. One of the most important things that we're going to be seeing coming out of this potential new patch, which Davy's not going to be implementing till after BlizzCon after a lot of testing, is what we're looking at seeing is trying to get Terran playing a bit more mech as an option, particularly against the Zerg matchup, and then playing a little bit less focused on Widowmines in specific there. And I actually had a video put up recently where somebody had brought to my attention that this is probably going to help me out. Specifically because what I'm going to be doing is going to be looking forward to the fact that all the upgrades right now for mech are going to be combined. So if you're air or ground, both will actually come from the same upgrade path here. So your air is going to be upgraded at the same time as your ground. Now that's already the case when it comes to the armor. So your air armor is going to be upgraded at the same time you're improving your ground, but they're going to do this with the weapons as well. And I don't know if this is absolutely necessary. I mean, getting that, the only time where you see a lot of Terrans really focusing on getting that missile upgrade for the air is when they're using it as a part of a balance, going against something like a Broodlord, or they really got to start shooting down Colossus. But in a lot of those cases, it doesn't necessarily pertain directly to going mech in that opportunity. You're getting those Vikings out specifically as more of a defensive countermeasure than anything else, and you can be playing bio just as much as playing mech. So having that combination together, though I'll take every opportunity I can get, feeling my Terran mech do better. What is interesting for me is that is the reason behind doing this necessarily, because I think that it is cool, but I don't think that it's necessarily going to open up the gameplay into mech any more than it is right now. The biggest one that probably every Zerg player is super stoked about is that the Widowmine splash is supposed to move from 1.75 to 1.1. So that's essentially cutting like a third of it out of there. The same amount of damage that's into this piece, and I'm really interested in this upgrade specifically because I know that what it's really going to have an impact on is Terrans that have been spending so much time specifically getting themselves just piles and piles of Widowmines, and even if your Widowmines don't get great connections, as we don't often see when you're playing this kind of, I'm going to go Widowmine against, you know, Zergling, Baneling, even if you don't get the great connections to those Widowmines likely will survive and your army will just fall back. But if your Widowmines connect, you can just win games. So we're seeing this huge knife edge that Zerg players are on right now, where you've got to have all these Mutalisks out in order to just hope to deal with the Widowmine sniping down medevacs and so forth. The real big problem with that then is obviously if you catch one really bad shot, you can lose all of your mutas, or at least get a lot of damage. You can lose entire droves of Zerglings and Banelings. So knocking down the splash damage, I mean, it'll still have an impact, but it's not going to be game changing. And I wonder, just as Hellbats got nerfed and we started seeing a big drop in people going into these Hellbat drops, if we're going to see people stop doing Widowmine drops in the same instance. Specifically because that splash damage earlier on is down, so you're not going to be able to get as many worker kills with it. It's still a pain in the butt. But Hellbats were still really good, even if they weren't as good as before. And we just saw that Hellbat drops almost disappeared entirely, just completely gone. So I'm at this stage thinking, well, maybe if we've got the Widowmine nerf, I won't have to worry so much if I'm playing Protoss that somebody's going to run into my base and drop a couple of Widowmines, and I'm going to have to panic, hope I have a Robo or a Stargate down. So this is the one, probably the biggest piece in here. And they're saying that they want to do this to try to encourage more siege tank play. And I think siege tank play was never a bad thing. I don't think that any Zerg opponents were really concerned that siege tank play was going to be the next big thing coming out of there. I think what is really interesting to watch with this is that it's just going to mean siege tanks are probably going to get mixed in. Maybe we're going to see 1 or 2 siege tanks put in with this play, and not really this giant effort forward into just straight up Widowmines. And I think that's exciting for me, because I think siege tanks aren't used enough right now. And the only reason is because I don't think they're as important. I don't think you need to be using the siege tanks right now. The Widowmines are doing a good enough job. They move quickly, and we'll see that they're actually looking at buffing the siege tank as well. They want to buff the siege tank from having a 3-second attack to a 2.7-second attack. So that's pretty decent, right? I'm not opposed to that at all. What is more interesting for me in that aspect... see, I'm just running home here. Good damage, hey? I thought that was pretty good. Good damage. The important thing with that siege tank attack piece there, and I don't think that increasing the attack rate is as big of a deal. I think where people have a lot of trouble using siege tanks right now and preferred Widowmines is because Widowmines are so fast. They move so quickly, they're so much more agile than straight up siege tank play. Like if you get sieged up, if you want to pick up and move, it's in that moment where you're moving between siege and unsiege and your tanks are lagging behind your stimmed bio that you really can't have that really fast lightning attack and do the damage that you want, catching players unaware. Which is why you still see siege tanks obviously in Terran versus Terran instead of Widowmines. But when we're looking at doing it from a strictly splash damage attack kind of style, we're obviously going to be seeing a lot more interest in opponents that want to go with still using the Widowmines because of how fast they are to move around with. So siege tanks getting more speed of attack, yes, I think that's cool. I think that'll help, but I think it's the actual speed of the siege tank. And I don't know if you can make the siege tank faster in any intelligent way. But that is an interesting concept, right? If you could make siege tanks move quicker, would they be all of a sudden a heck of a lot more applicable? Alright, you see my macro running a little bit bad here with all my micro. Need to get my gas up and going. So anyways, yes, we're seeing a shift potentially in the metagame away from Widowmines and back into siege tanks, and I don't think we're going to see a complete shift. I'm hoping what this does is create a balance between using Widowmines as a splash of Widowmines with some siege tanks in there, and I think that siege tanks are obviously going to be great because usually right now there's this dance between specifically Zerg and Terran where there's just like a separation point where they know the Widowmines are, so they're not going to attack, and you know where the army is, so you can't move forward. So yeah, that's what's going to be happening there. Now on into the Protoss, and what the Protoss are getting out of here. There is a slight decrease in the cost of the Oracle. I'm not exactly sure if this is going to change anything. Oracle strategies are very specific and used right now anyways. I don't think removing 50 gas is going to open up a whole world of different play. I think what is interesting about it, regardless, is that you're going to hopefully see people use it as part of a build order strategy, so you can have that detection with the Oracles and so forth, not forcing Protoss players into having to get out your detection through the robo facility, which can obviously cost a lot more time and energy to get out, particularly if that's not the tech path you want to use. So seeing the Oracles, and they want to use the Oracles throughout the gameplay, seeing just a splash of these Oracles throughout the usage, which I agree with. I like that idea. What it should allow you to do is then, as a Protoss player, always have 1 or 2 Oracles within your army, and that's really, really cool, because then you're going to be able to have, you know, that constant detection, that really, really high DPS, and that ability to use the envision that I very rarely see, but it's such a really cool thing, particularly in the late game. If you can get that down, get that reveal on where your opponent's army is and see that, it's so much easier for you to make decisions as to the direction you wish to take. See, knock down those rocks there very smartly so I couldn't go in for any more damage. So yes, Oracle play getting used a little bit more throughout the game. Totally agree with it. I think that's a smart play. Though I hate Oracles, I hope it doesn't increase Oracle cheese and people just rushing out those Oracles. It's almost mandatory now unless you got a ton of Marines out to get down yourself a missile turret just to guard your lines so much better. Otherwise, it's too easy for you to just get owned. One Oracle can just, in the early game, can do so much damage. It's one of those things that I don't even consider game changing, but if you don't prepare optimally for it, and you just get unbelievably rolled, well then yeah, you're in a tough spot regardless. Quick note on this game here, you see that my opponent is actually pushing for Roach Hydra, and he's got his infestation to move up into his hive tech. Whoopsies. So yes, the next big thing that's going on with the Protoss players is the Dark Templar movement speed. Now this is really interesting. They've been buffing Dark Templars for so long now, and I kind of wonder why. Like, I mean, they're good, they're not maybe they're not used as much as they would want, but when I look at how much damage they can do in such a short period of time, they can just win games by themselves. I'm concerned a little bit that we're not going to be able to have, we're going to have a lot more people going for DTs in a cheese sense, because this movement speed means that Terran players that rely on scans, you're going to be able to very, very easily move out of the way of what's coming at you. See a nice drop loading up from here. We see that it's just going to be too easy, I think, for these Dark Templars to just hide, come back, and cost scans. We're going to be forcing Terran players into getting out permanent detection, maybe even getting Ravens out in the early game, which for me is really strange. Like, Ravens, I think, should be mixed in more, and they've gotten some great buffs to dictate that that should probably be the case, but yet we still don't really have that happening as a constant, and maybe that's what we're going to see more of. Kind of a nervous point here in this game. Nice little standoff. So those are two really good buffs for the Protoss. I thought they might do something with the Void Rays to nerf those slightly, just because of how much they are used. Just how... Look, he's actually getting the ventral sacks. I think he just missed up his tech a little bit there. Anyways, Void Rays. Void Rays, good unit, but I think that the Void Rays have been way overused. Have been doing way too much damage, and have been, in a difficult sense, they've been just... They're winning games when they shouldn't be, and we're seeing just too much specific play right into Void Rays there. And they are super, super difficult to deal with now that they have that upgrade that just allows them to blast through anything that's armored. The last upgrade that's coming in, and would actually apply to this game as well, is Roach Speed Burrow increase from 1.4 to 2.25. Now what is the actual Roach speed right now? Movement speed is 3, so they're going to be moving, not that far off of what they would move just normally. We see a really nice burrow drop here. I think we're seeing a lot more, at least I am, a lot more Zergs playing with burrow play, specifically to get underneath this tech of, meching Terran players. I'm having this understanding right now that if we're pushing Terrans to play more mech, we're going to need more creative strategies to get around that. And drops and burrow with roaches, I think, is going to be one of the big things to do. Very cost effective, very tanky unit. I think it's very important for those to be in here in that instance. I see this drop moving around here, and I'm already out of place to be able to deal with it. Some missile turrets, though. At least they'll cost him a few overlords, though he's only losing ones that are empty right now. So yes, burrow speed increase for the roaches. I like it. I think it's going to help change up the play a little bit for most players. This is so newbie for me right here. The front entrance completely open for him to walk in if he wanted to. So anyways, overall, what do I think that this patch is going to mean for the current metagame? I think what it's going to mean for the metagame, as you can see I've got double jobs happening right now, sexy, sexy me. What this is going to mean for the current metagame is we're going to see, I'm hoping, a shift towards mech, because I think mech is absolutely fantastic. I think it's an amazing playstyle, and so fun to use. Oh, I missed that last one. There he is. Used a lot of scans on it, though. So we can go back to my game, I guess, a little bit here. And once again, all the details on this change to the gameplay will be down below. 30 kills. Not bad. You'll be able to see these different pieces. And as I said, my thoughts on this are that we are going to see a pretty big shift in what the composition should be. Not because units are getting better, but I think because some units are getting worse. So for instance, I think that it's going to be making the... it's going to be making it worse for Terrans to play Widowmine style. I don't think it is going to be as effective to do that. Ugh, it's a bad place to be. So we're going to be seeing more mech usage like I'm showing right now. Mech's easy to use, people. Enjoy mech. Enjoy bacon. Bacon's tasty. I love killing larvae with a blue flame. And I actually have a pretty strong army moving out right now. I feel that this is actually going to be a good time for me to go on an attack. I thought that there's some of these changes I'm usually skeptical of, like the Protoss ones for having the Dark Templar. Like, they made the Dark Templar so cheap to get. It's so cost effective now to be able to get Dark Templar, yet we still have a lot of players that just, it's not an all-in kind of strategy, but you've got to very much plan ahead for it. It's not like you just kind of incorporate it into your normal play. Just like the Oracle is right now for the Protoss. Like, these are just specific strategies you use to go win. Usually in the early game. What I think they're trying to do with Starcraft is make it so the units you incorporate into with the rest of your army so that it's still useful, but it's not just a complete one-sided affair. There's actually a good chunk of roaches over here, which are getting cleaned up really nicely, even though my upgrades aren't that good. Yeah. So this was a good game to kind of show off those differences of what could be coming out of this. Hopefully we're going to see more players using the mech strategy. I hope you guys enjoyed my take on what's coming down the pipe. I'll have another video that I put up when, you know, it get released to Battle.net, when we actually see these changes implemented. As I said before, it shouldn't be till after the BlizzCon finals. But regardless, we are going to see a balance change, and it will have a pretty drastic impact on the metagame. That's what it's designed to do. It's not supposed to be something really tiny, and I can respect that. Wow. SeKo Starcraft, thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll talk with you later.